right, my friends, J.R. Dukes at your service. Appreciate everybody tuning in today. We have just hit the go live button, so we should be cranking here in just 1 second. Hello to everyone tuning in on the X platform. Hello to everybody on YouTube, of course, and Twitch just came online. So fantastic. I want to say on the front end, I apologize for not making videos in the last couple of days. The truth is, I'm just now getting over COVID. If you can imagine, that's my second bout with that. So if my voice sounds weird, starts to go, something along them lines, you know what's going on. But I started having symptoms when we were doing a live stream Tuesday together. And, I could just kind of feel it in my throat type of thing. And I tell you what, this one here's really kicked me in the, kicked hard. It's no joke to have that. So it is what it is. And like I said, I'm on the mend, so I'm doing well as far as that goes. But we have a lot to talk about today, and I have a guest that you will know, and the folks on my channel here are very familiar with him. And we are going to be talking about the threat to democracy. We continuously hear about Donald Trump being the threat to democracy, that he's an existential threat, meaning that if he's elected, our country will cease to exist. Just a complete bunch of nonsense. We're also going to talk about the vice president pick of Donald Trump. Who is that likely to be? Not necessarily who do we want, but who do we think it's going to be? And then, of course, we're going to touch on Biden's performance, and I got some interesting comments that I think you all will all appreciate. So let's go ahead and bring in our guests. And by the way, anybody that wants to join the conversation today, the chat link, you can either just call in or you can appear via video. The link is at the top of the chat on the comments. So if you haven't introduced yourself already, please take a moment and do so. I'll type it in one more time. And like I said, at the top of your comment page right there should be the link. Join the discussion live. Call in. Love to hear from you. Love to hear whatever it is you have to say or any questions you have. Otherwise, you can just simply use the chat feature and we can go like that too. So our guest today, as you can see, is Sapphire Ridge News, Mark. How you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing well today.
Fantastic. Appreciate you taking time to join us. Lots going on in the news today. For y'all that may not have heard that Alec Baldwin trial that's going on in New Mexico pertaining to that cinematographer that was killed when the gun that was used by Alec Baldwin was fired. Today, they just had the judge declare effectively a mistrial and dismiss the charges in this particular case. The key is the charges are dismissed with what we call with prejudice. And that's a fancy way to say it cannot be refiled. Have you followed that case at all, Mark? Just
yes.
Curious.
The prosecutor screwed
go
up
ahead.
big time. The prosecutor.
What did you hear? What did the prosecutor do or not do?
I watched the hearing this morning.
Okay.
The prosecutor got caught introducing evidence from the Hannah Gutierrez trial that she had not shared with the defense. The bullets from the Hannah Gutierrez trial were brought in to Alec Baldwin's trial, and she didn't share that with the defense. She sprung it on them at trial.
Yep, that's what I heard too.
That judge was pissed off.
Oh, I'm sure she was. For those listening that don't know this already, when you have a trial, it's purposely set up as what we call an adversarial system of justice. We have it's just the way it is set up by design. You put on your best argument, but the bottom line is there are rules. And one of the most important rules is the prosecution, not the defense, but the prosecution has to turn everything over to the defense. And I mean everything, especially if it's what's called exculpatory in nature, meaning leads away from finding the person guilty for whatever they're charged with. And as Mark was just saying, in this particular situation, they decided that these bullets, that of course is at the heart of this particular case, that these bullets that were not turned over to the defense were really, it was not necessary in their opinion to turn over these bullets. And I'm like, what? I've never even heard of that. You just get these prosecutors that they kind of get to a point where they just want to, I don't know, keep their axe real sharp so they can build
Yeah.
a whole list of whatever. I mean, outrageous
I
thoughts.
knew the judge was pissed off when she said, "I'm coming down there." And she got up off of the chair and walked down, called the witness over to her, sent the deputy to get the box of bullets, brought them in, had the witness separate them out. I thought, oh,
Uh,
you're screwed.
yeah, and here's another thing too. You know, that Gutierrez or whatever her name is, the young
Yeah,
lady that was
Gutierrez.
convicted for 18 months, she should be released pretty quickly because the
Right,
same facts in Baldwin's case pertain to her case. That evidence
right.
was not turned over as part of her trial. As far as I'm concerned, she's going to be released pretty soon, if not
Yeah,
immediately. At least she should be. And the funny thing is, this is the same judge that heard her case. It's the exact same
yeah. I
prosecutor,
think
exact
I
same
think
judge.
that's why the judge was pissed off, because she found out that evidence was improper evidence and it was used at the other trial. And here, come to find out, it was purposely hidden. It was given a separate case number than the rest of the case.
Yeah, and the fact
So,
that they and what's outrageous is they just presume that it was not something they needed to turn over. The normal process is
right,
they turn over everything, or if there's a question, then they bring it to the judge and let the judge decide what has to be turned over. They knew
right,
that this equates to malfeasance, and now you have a
yeah,
young lady with a felony conviction who's currently serving time in prison. I would have to remind you, and it has messed up her life,
right,
and it's just a shame. I hope there's some serious repercussions for this. Let me
yeah,
go to the comments real quick and just say hello
sure,
to our friend Zach. It's always good to have you, my friend. Thanks for joining. Yeah, you don't want to catch my cooties, no doubt about it. Hopefully, I figured I didn't have to have a mask or anything because I guess we're safe over the
yeah,
video here. Like I said, I apologize for my voice, and we'll see how long it holds up. But it is what it is. I tell you what, I hope y'all don't catch that because it's nasty. That
yeah,
COVID stuff is no joke. And I've been vaccinated. I've had my shots.
yeah.
I had COVID back when it was originally going around, and this time here it was pretty brutal. I didn't
Yeah.
tell I didn't tell
My
anybody in
my
my house or
nephew,
anything.
my nephew caught it the third time, and it
Hmm.
permanently damaged his lungs.
It can definitely be bad. I should have known this was COVID. The only reason I know it is we have those at home tests. So
Right.
my girlfriend, matter of fact, she's in the chat here. She went ahead and gave me one of these at-home COVID tests, and it turned out fine. I didn't tell anybody that I was feeling so bad, but I wouldn't be exaggerating if I didn't tell you that I actually thought Wednesday night I might be seeing Jesus, and I'm not joking.
Wow.
I just wasn't sure. I was thinking about
Yeah.
going to the hospital, and I just ended up falling asleep. So it turned out pretty good. So. And of course, Rosemary Fier, thanks for joining us today. Zach says hello, Rosemary. Yeah, you're going
Oh,
to have
Zach.
to. She's fully aware that of what problems I got going on here. So
Yeah.
the she's been very helpful. So it is what it is. I'm glad we had those at-home tests. I did hear in the news that stuff was going around anyway. So
Right.
everybody out there, the normal, usual stuff. Wash your hands. Be careful. The funny thing about me is I'm normally home all the time. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I don't go to a whole lot of places, so it just happens. It's something that happens, and we'll go from there on it. So let's go ahead and drill down on the next little topic before we get into the democracy, the real threat to democracy. And Sapphire, I want to ask you. Obviously, Monday is the start of the National Republican Convention. I believe it's in
Right.
Milwaukee, Wisconsin this year.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a week long event. And of course, former President Donald Trump needs to unveil his pick for vice president. So, my question is who and when do you think he's going to make this pick?
I think he's already made it, because
You think he's already made up his mind?
because at the rally the other night, at the very beginning of the rally, he said, "Marco, I think they want me to just tell them that you're the vice president." And then,
That is an interesting take. I did hear that myself when I was watching that speech. You're talking about the speech that he gave
yeah,
back
And he
during
also,
the
when
that
he
was his
talked
speech
to
in Doral, Florida.
Doral, yeah,
Doral, okay,
when he talked about the no tax on tips,
right.
he turned right and said, Marco, I know you would vote for that, but you probably won't be there to vote for it.
Oh, that's another. Yeah, you're reading the tea leaves. Very
I'm reading
interesting
the tea
comments. That's
leaves,
right. Yeah.
and it's like, hey, he's the pick, because he wouldn't be saying, you're probably not going to be there, you know?
It's interesting you say that because I do remember him saying that. I just really didn't think much of it. In all fairness, I've been a little under the weather, so I'm not thinking as clear as I should be thinking. But that is a great point, my friend. I remember him making that comment during that speech here in Florida, and it's interesting that you pointed out like that. Now, I personally think Marco Rubio would be a fantastic pick. I'm not one that likes to engage in what we call identity politics. I really
Right.
think it's shameful, but it is
My,
the reality that we live in.
my view on that is Rubio is the perfect pick because he's in a deep red state. If he wins, then DeSantis gets to pick his replacement. And DeSantis can even name himself as a fill-in replacement.
Well, that was a question for you. If he picks a Rubio, the replacement, does he have to resign immediately, or does he only
No,
resign if they're elected?
he resigns if they're elected.
Only if they're elected. Okay, and
Right.
then the governor, who of course is Governor Ron DeSantis, would choose the replacement, which of
Right.
course would be another Republican. So there wouldn't be
Right.
any change as far as who controls the seat that
Senate.
he would
Yeah.
be
Right.
vacant. Right. All right. And then
That
how about the situation where you can't have the president and vice president from the same state? Have you figured out a possible solution to that?
yes,
What is it?
Marco Rubio can move to another state. See, that's what happened with Bush Cheney. Cheney was from Texas.
Yeah, but the
And
problem is that
he owned
Rubio
a
is a
ranch.
set.
He owned a
But
ranch in Wyoming. He
right.
changed his residence to his ranch in Wyoming, and then there was no problem.
Okay, well, follow me through. Let me state this
Yeah,
question, and then you
sure.
respond if you know the answer. Okay, I want to make sure I state it for our viewers. By the way, we got quite a few next. Appreciate you being here, and obviously Twitch and YouTube. Thanks for everybody joining us today. All right, so excuse me, Mark. I'm going to pose the question: if Trump, which I agree, it's a very good chance he might go with Marco Rubio. I think he would make a fantastic addition to the ticket, and the fact that he is a Latino, I think, can only obviously help the ticket as far as with minorities. Again, I don't like these identity politics, but it is part of the world that
Right.
we live in. So here's my question. I understand fully the situation with George W. Bush and Dick Cheney, both being from Texas, where Dick Cheney went ahead and changed his residence to Wyoming. But here's my question for you. If Rubio hypothetically changed his residence from the state of Florida, would that not necessitate the fact that Rubio would have to resign his seat in the Senate at that point? Is that something you know, or what do you
Yeah,
say about that?
it's only if they win.
So he can
Because
change his residence, and there would be no problem with him maintaining his seat, right?
right, because
Okay.
if they
Well,
don't win, then he can keep on being the senator. But I think if he puts Rubio on the ticket, they'll win because Rubio is well liked in the Latin community.
yeah, Zach made an interesting point here. Trump's VP is supposed to make an announcement a week ago. What's the holdup? Well, the holdup, Zach, at least just speculating here. The holdup is real simple. Donald Trump's a smart man. He's an expert at grabbing attention and television attention specifically, and he wants to have a huge buildup. And additionally, you have the Democrats absolutely committing self suicide at this point. You don't want to. I mean, the expression I would use is who wants to commit homicide when they're already going to commit suicide? So you might as well
Right.
just set back, grow stronger while your rivals are essentially shooting themselves in a circular fashion. I think it's pretty well that. And additionally, I'm sure you all heard the VP comment, another
Right.
gaffe by President Joe Biden the other day,
Yes.
where he said he appointed Vice President Donald Trump.
Yeah.
That's pretty.
Yeah.
I think that's
And
hilarious.
yesterday afternoon, he introduced President Zelensky as President Putin.
I saw that too. He's what do you think about that? What do you think about that press conference? So I am interested as to the press conference that President Biden gave at the end of the NATO summit yesterday. What
I think it
was
was
your take on that? And then I'll share with you mine.
I think it was a disaster because the buildup was that it was going to be a free spirit, big boy press conference. And the first thing he said, he held up a piece of paper and he said, I have the list of reporters I'm allowed to call on.
I agree. The what I will add or slightly change is the following. I think that this press conference was a huge victory, as Donald Trump would say. It was huge. It was
Yeah.
a huge victory for Donald Trump, and the reason I say
Right.
that is, even though Biden had these gaffes and these mistakes, let's be straight up about it. In my opinion, at least, he far exceeded the very low bar that was set for him
Right.
by simply getting through this particular debate. And it went on for like approximately an hour in
Right.
time. And again, I tell everybody how I feel about whatever the subject is, even if it is contrary to what I want to see happen. And so what I would say is, I think President Biden did a much better job than I thought he would do. He was able to show some type of understanding of foreign policy and some of the challenges that the United States and the world faces. So I was happy to see that in that particular regard. I would say that it's a victory for Donald Trump because it's a
Yes.
disaster for the Democrats, because I'm thinking a lot of them wanted President Biden to simply embarrass himself up there on stage, kind of like he shows up
Right.
on stage and he continues to do what he did at the debate 2 weeks ago. That did not happen, at least in that type of extreme example. So at this point, there's nothing that they can really push him out with, is all I'm trying to say. It was not like he said, I killed Medicaid, or
Right.
just kind of shut down being saved by the bell. Well, what do you think?
When you lose Mark Halperin, David Axelrod, and James Carville all within a 2-week period, that spells trouble for the Democrats.
I would say that that's an accurate way to say. Now, let's get into the meat of what I want to talk about today, and that is,
Sure.
we have heard for quite some time all these Democrats, these woke Democrats, saying that Donald Trump's an existential threat to the United States, that allowing him to become president of the United States again is really going to be the end of our democracy. Now, without getting into the fact that we're technically a constitutional republic and not a democracy, you really don't want to be a true democracy. A constitutional
Right.
republic is right where we need to be. But I want you to think about this. Who is the actual threat to democracy? What do you think about all of these Democrats that voted for President Biden? Approximately 14 million people across the country, plus or minus whatever, voted for Joe Biden to be the nominee of the Democratic Party. And now you have these deep state elites, is what I call them, that think
Right.
they know better. You have Barack Obama talking to Nancy Pelosi, kind of, in as a side conversation or whatever, essentially plotting what I can only describe as some type of treasonous activity. It's essentially
Right.
the undermining of a president of the United States, a sitting president of the United States. Now, you can say what you want about Joe Biden. Lord knows he's not my favorite person, and I definitely
Right.
don't support his policies. And I'm going to get into that in a minute, to the additional examples of the problems that he has as far as being the true threat to our democracy. But if we look at it just from the election context, that I'm throwing out here. Imagine that you have these elites, these elitists that are essentially going behind the president's back, some of them directly to his face, and they're actively plotting to disenfranchise 14 million plus voters to have the person they want to head the Democratic ticket. Outrageous! Outrageous! Why is that not criminal? What do you say?
It is criminal, but Merrick Garland would never press charges because he's in their loop.
I've never heard really anybody on TV, the talking heads, essentially stating what I'm stating right now. And that is that this is basically treasonous activity. They already took Donald Trump off the ballot. We had to go to the Supreme Court to have that nonsense rectified. And now you have a de facto coup of a sitting United States president to have him taken off of the Democrats' nominee to be president. That is improper. That's illegal. I submit to you, it's treason, period. And I don't think that's hyperbole. I don't think that that's just gaslighting. It is the reality. Anybody with vision can see it. This is like something out of a George Oswell. Give me 1 second. This is something like out of a George Oswell 1984 novel or something. And it just outrages me that these people just think that they can go ahead and disenfranchise us. And the last point I'll make is we already have mechanisms to right this wrong. The mechanism, my friend, is the 25th Amendment.
Right.
It's very clear that his cabinet can take a vote and decide to remove a sitting president if he's in decline and not able to see it for himself. What do you say?
Chip Roy, I really like Chip Roy. He's working on I think he called it an amendment, which would be kind of like a bill that mandates the vice president to gather the cabinet and hold a vote on the 25th Amendment.
And who is that? Representative Chip Roy? Is that who you said?
Yeah, Chip Roy from Texas. I really like him. And so he's supposed to be doing that by the weekend because he said he wanted to do it before the convention.
Well, that'd be interesting how that plays out. Do you see the treasonous activity the way I do, or you think I'm overstating that situation? And have you thought about it in the context that I'm putting it out there?
I think it's beyond treasonous.
Yeah, I do too. It's just
you're stabbing 14 million Americans in the back.
Obviously, this new Democratic woke party does not value our civil rights, our civil liberties, our rights guaranteed to us in the U.S. Constitution the way that we do. And again, I have not seen one legacy media talking head saying anything. I've only really heard something like this very softly from Fox News, but nobody putting it the way that I'm putting it.
There's two outlets that you would hear it from: Fox News or Newsmax. And Fox News is getting all messed up. They have Paul Ryan is on the board. And Paul Ryan is a never Trump rhino.
Now, Paul Ryan, he used to be what?
He used to be Speaker of the House.
That's right. Okay.
And he got caught making backroom deals with the Democrats. And they voted him out as Speaker, and he had to resign his House seat because his constituents were up in arms.
Right.
And so...
No, I clearly remember him. He was a vice presidential candidate at one time, wasn't he? For John McCain or something? Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. All right. let's take a quick peek, folks, at this video that I pulled up.
Oh,
Now, this is
Gregory
on
Meeks. He used to live in
me. Yeah,
Chicago. I know
yeah.
Gregory Meeks.
This is Representative Gregory Meeks. He's definitely what you would call one of these radical kooks.
Yep.
So let's listen to these comments he recently made on what is this, MSNBC. I know President Trump has a favorite name for them, but any rate,
Yeah.
it's just interesting. We're just going to listen to this for a minute or so, but listen to his comments, and then Mark will get your commentary after the clip finishes
All right.
playing. So here we go.
Go against people who seem to be very friendly to the former president, like Vladimir Putin, who, the former president said their intelligence was stronger than American intelligence, and in fact gave away national security information to the Russians in the White House. Unlike him, the former president, who seems to be more friendly with Kim Jong-un than our NATO allies. And so, look, the president has led, continues to lead, and the leadership that he has provided has brought the world, the democratic world, closer together to make us all safer together than we would be if we were doing this by ourselves. That is what the authoritarians hope, that we would be divided. The leadership of Joe Biden has prevented that from happening.
And the issue of folks that are divided, I know you were on that call with your other Democratic colleagues and the minority leader in the House, Hakeem Jeffries, where some Democrats called on the president to step down. What would you say to them, and what do you think going forward needs to be clarified?
Look, I think that all are looking, everybody's really on the same page.
This is
what
where
we
he gets into it.
Is that Donald Trump cannot be president again. He's an existential threat to democracy. Now, what I think, thank God, Democrats are not Republicans. Republicans just flock in one line. That's something that endangers democracy. That's what happened in the 1930s. The Germans just walked in line with Hitler and Stalin. They just walked in line. Democrats like to speak and think on behalf of the constituencies that they represent. Now, I think that it was hugely a mistake, and I don't like the fact that that meeting was leaked. Because what Leader Jeffries is trying to do is bring us all together and listen to every Democrat in the House of Representatives.
Yeah, they don't like it when we find out the truth. They want to run the government almost like a shadow government. What's your comments on that, Mark?
He's always been full of crap.
I think that's a good way to put it.
He named exactly what Democrats do. Democrats stick together no matter what. And for him to say, oh no, we each speak our own voice, that's a load of garbage.
Yeah, I agree. I like the way that these folks here, they really say stuff and then they don't even know what they're talking about or what they're admitting to. I like when he says, oh, well, he had this meeting with the president. It's unfortunate that it leaked. Why would we not have this information that our elected leaders are meeting with each other, trying to overthrow our current president? I just really see it that clear, that black and white, if you will. And then you get a kook like this guy here that is he's just spewing nonsense and lies.
Yeah.
And, whenever they go ahead and try to gaslight everyone, and all they have is fear, by the way. That's all they have is fear. They have to make everyone in America afraid of what a second Trump presidency would mean. So they have to spew this nonsense out and gaslight each and every one of us. And all they say is he's a existential threat. Okay, well, first of all, give me an example. And I have examples on Biden that I'm about to go into here in just a minute. Give me an example of how Donald Trump has taken our rights away. If you look at the record, clearly Donald Trump has done a lot to help our freedoms. Where these people They have taken Donald Trump off the ballot. Now they're trying to overthrow a sitting president, a current president of the United States. The list just goes on and on. These people think they know better, and they think you're stupid. They think I'm stupid, and basically, it's just do what we tell you to do.
Right.
Type of behavior. Anything?
That's exactly right. You're supposed to fall in line, don't question anything, do what you're told. It's like being in a cult.
That's what they try to always say about the Republicans. Let's go to the comments real quick. Bryce,
Yeah.
J.D. Vance would energize the important, frustrated Rust Belt voters in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Trump should take those voters very seriously if he wants to win. I agree. I think Biden will lose this November. However, I do think Gavin Newsom will win in 2020. That's a possibility. He's definitely a slick politician, but this year I don't see that happening no matter what happens. Newsom,
right. I have information on Gavin Newsom that I'm going to put in a video.
Yeah, he owns the border, all the people that's coming
Right.
into his county, the enormous amount of taxes. Yes, that Zach is exactly right. Baldwin's case was dismissed just shortly ago. If the short version is the prosecution decided not to share all of the evidence like they are compelled to under law. It's just under their rules of procedure. That is really just an egregious, unforgivable error. It cannot be remedied. And the judge wisely knows this. Unlike this crooked judge Merchant in New York City, this judge is an honest judge. She knows that when the rules are not followed, it's got to go. And Zach, the one young lady that was sentenced to 18 months in prison, she's as good as free, in my opinion. It's just a matter of time to bring the motion to dismiss before this. This is the same judge and the same prosecutor. Unbelievable. So, it was dismissed, Zach, to answer your question, and it was dismissed with prejudice, which means, in layman's terms, it cannot be refiled. Bryce is saying the reason why I think Gavin Newsom will win is because of his charisma and smile. I know that sounds silly, but that's how women vote. Yeah, I don't disagree with that, Bryce. He's got charisma. There's no doubt. He's a good-looking guy for a guy, I guess. I'm not really a good judge of good-looking guys. I mean, I know what I look like in the mirror every morning, but no, seriously though, it does take charisma. There's no doubt about that, and that's something that Donald Trump has, and Gavin.
Something to watch for. If Biden actually resigns and makes Kamala president,
right?
She can pick anyone from the Democrat ticket for her VP, and I think she would pick Newsom.
All that is a possibility, and that could be a way that she tries to get him into the White House if she was to win, God forbid.
Right.
But what I will say is that
that would be.
I don't think that's going to happen.
That would be a dream ticket for Trump because they're both terrible.
They are definitely terrible. There's no doubt about that. The talking heads were talking today that they think that they were saying something to the effect of that Donald Trump's scared of Kamala Harris. I mean, the spin they try to put on this stuff is just absolutely ridiculous. It just hits a new low each and every time. And I don't think we have to worry about that. It is funny that the race is still so tight, but that's just because people are pretty well entrenched in their beliefs. And I think it's really just that simple. Now, let's see, Mark, I got this list and we'll go through it quickly here. And if you got anything you want to comment on, let me know. But this is a list I put together of reasons why the real threat to democracy is not Donald Trump, but is Joe Biden. These are things Joe Biden has done. Okay, first of all, number one on my list is ignoring the Supreme Court rulings. And I'm talking about student aid and other things. If he talks about how we have to follow the law and do things properly and correctly, this is the same guy. The Supreme Court said you cannot do what you're doing as far as just automatically passing, throwing taxpayer money around without authorization from Congress. They told him you can't do that in the stop, and he still went ahead and did it anyways.
Right.
And there's many examples like that where the court told him you can't do something. For another example would be affirmative action. What did they do when the Supreme Court killed affirmative action? Now we have that DEI crap. So,
Right.
all right, then we got the student loan forgiveness censorship allegations. That was the Supreme Court case where it was just recently sent back to the lower court to be reevaluated. The Supreme Court did not fully rule on it. They kind of punted, but essentially, in layman's terms, what you had is you had the Biden administration go into companies like Facebook and just other companies, let's just say internet companies, and they'll say something like, listen, we can't make you do anything, but we would appreciate it because we want to put an end to disinformation if on this person's account you can delete the following post. And the funny thing is and it's not really funny, the reality is that when the federal government with all their might gives you a phone call and asks you for something, they're not asking.
No.
It's de facto censorship. And I think one or two of the justices kind of made those remarks as the Supreme Court sent it back to the lower court. You agree with that, friend?
I agree with that.
All right. Well, let me continue. Weaponization of the federal agencies. We're talking lawfare here. Clearly,
Right.
this president and his cronies have taken a very decent system of justice and they have simply prostituted it into something evil and nasty and tried to essentially, I call it state-issued suicide, have it to where our own state is effectively turning on itself. And that is a good way to go down the toilet quick, in my opinion. Border security. You got 12 million plus people that have crossed the border since Biden has been in office. 12 million plus. And all he had to do when he took office was do nothing. Trump already had the policies in place. As if you remember, Donald Trump said that, or matter of fact, it was Joe Biden that kept accusing the former president of killing the deal this last January that would have gave him the tools he needed to finally secure the border. He didn't get what he wanted, which wouldn't have worked anyways. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about on that border deal. Then all of a sudden, he knows the election is coming up and his poll numbers are terrible, especially in relation to the border. So what happened? Oh, miracle of miracles. He found a way to do it without a new law from Congress. Amazing, ain't it? It's almost like, go ahead.
Congress signed the deal yesterday to make the Save America Act a law. The Save America Act says that you have to present an ID if you vote.
Yes, they're turning down they're killing the voter ID type things, right? So we know who's voting, essentially. Yes.
And Biden said that was anti-American.
Have you noticed what number 6 is here on my list right here? Concerns Biden's stance on the election integrity. That's exactly right, my friend. How about the COVID-19 mandates his administration passed? And you know what? I got a bone to pick with Chief Justice John Roberts. He was drinking this Kool-Aid too. They had a church come to him and say, sir, they're keeping the bars open, but they won't let our congregation meet. He refused to hear the case or issue a TRO, a temporary restraining order. You have judicial overreach under the Biden administration. Go ahead.
Here's what I have against Mitch McConnell. In Louisville, Kentucky, there was a church during COVID that was meeting in the parking lot, and the sheriff was called and told them if they didn't go home, they would all be arrested, and Mitch McConnell said nothing.
Yes. Yeah. And Mitch McConnell, I think his wife or whatever got sideways with the president, and that sent them on this unfortunate type stuff. And yeah, Zach, you're exactly right. I've always called him Sapphire forever, but since he came out with his YouTube channel, we just call him by his first name, Mark.
Right.
So yeah, you can call him Sapphire Mark. He's all good. He doesn't care. We'll give you his channel name again here in just a minute. I got Judicial Overreach. What else has the president? This president attempted to what we call pack the Supreme Court. He doesn't like the 9 justices that are there, or at least most of the justices that are there. So him and his colleagues attempted, at least thought about, let's put it that way, what they call packing the court. In other words, you don't like the current 6-3 split between conservatives and liberals. So in Biden's world, you just add another 4 liberal justices, something along that line. Where you can have a supermajority. You have his economic policies, criticisms of Biden's economic policies. The inflation, we all know what's happened with inflation. You think that makes anybody more free? With this type of inflation and people can't afford food or to pay their bills?
I talked about that in my video today, how that Biden incorrectly stated that food prices are down, prices in general are down. Okay, last July, if you went and get a double Big Mac meal, the large meal, it was $20. Right now, it's almost $29.
Yeah, I heard that too.
$9 increase in a year, but yet he thinks that the prices are going down.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Wherever you go, the amount the groceries are costing. I went to the grocery store twice this week already, and I'm telling you what, you can't even get like a partial cart filled up for less than $100. Right. It's just absolutely insane. I never really paid much attention to it, but I can promise you, I've been paying much attention to it. Now, moving on here.
Report on
Go ahead,
CNN
Mark.
Last night. This guy, 3 years ago, went to Walmart and he gets the same thing all the time. It was $150. He went to buy the exact same list this last week, $450.
All right. In relation to President Biden's foreign policy, let's just call them blunders. Tell me if you think this has made us more free or has threatened our democracy. Look at the disastrous pullout in Afghanistan. I'm of the firm opinion that this nonsense that happened in Afghanistan, this disastrous, embarrassing, deadly withdrawal, he's like, I'm ending it. It was contrary to advice given to him by his own military. He just said, to hell with it. We're out of there. You had 13 soldiers that were killed. And by the way, if you remember, he's like, during the debate, he's like, there's been no soldiers lost since I've been president. And, complete lies, complete nonsense. If it had not been for Joe Biden and this Afghanistan nonsense, we would still have our base right beside China to keep an eye on him and the Taliban that is still resurging and going back to their terrible, nasty ways. In addition to that, you look what's going on in Israel. Look what Putin has done to Ukraine. It has not made us more free, and it has only served to bring us closer to World War III and endanger our democracy. And we all have to be mindful of that. We have crime rates that are through the roof. We have education system manipulation going on right now. Has he turned the FBI against moms and dads that's out there doing, just living normal life? They show up at a meeting to express their deep concerns about something that's going on in the school system. The Joe Biden administration weaponized the FBI and designated them as domestic terrorisms. And I'll go to this point and then I'll wrap it up and let you comment, Mark. And that is what I call, and Trump calls, the Green New Scam. Do you know you cannot even say you disagree with climate change anymore? I have to be careful what I say on YouTube. They got policies and prohibitions against that. If I wanted to make a true video about how I feel about the Green New Scam, I would have to make it and put it on Rumble or X or something like that. That's just the way that the system is right now. And we have to We have to face the reality that this is truly affecting our democracy. So, Mark, tell me what you think on that there, my friend. What's your opinion?
I think that this is all affecting our democracy.
Speak up a little bit because I can't hear you on my side here. There you go.
Oh, is that better?
Much better. Go ahead.
I think it affects our democracy in that we are at a crucial point in our democracy. If Joe Biden wins, it's my firm belief we will not have a country left.
Yes.
He's done
I
much
definitely
damage to this country in just 3 years. Just 3 years. I think it will take a solid conservative 8 years to fix it.
It's a very, very important election, Mark. Because of my voice and everything, I want to start wrapping it up here. I got a few words I want to tell all my viewers real quick before I leave. Now, tell my viewers who you are and how they can find your YouTube channel.
I'm Mark. My YouTube channel is Sapphire Ridge News, and I'm also on X at Sapphire Ridge 59.
All right, that sounds fantastic. Mark, if you would just kindly stand by for me for 1 second, and then I'll be right with you. So, folks, this election, as I have been saying, is too important to lose. You have to do your part. I realize we can only do so much, but you can do your part. You can tell your family, friends, and relatives about my channel. Have them look at this video. Have them look at my other videos where I'm fighting this awful disease going around in our country of indoctrination, of lies. We all have to do our part this year and get out and vote. Get the vote out. Take a friend with you to vote. It is just too important. You hear that a lot. Every election is the most important. This is the most important election in my lifetime. I feel it. I know it. And I know you do too. If you're still with me, friends, you might as well hit the thumbs up button. Y'all that are on X and other platforms, if you want to support the channel, go over to YouTube, please. And simply, I'm at JR Dukes. Hit the subscribe button, and you'll be alerted as I have new things coming up. And I appreciate Zach and Bryce and Mark. Thank you for joining us today. And, of course, Rosemary, it's always a pleasure to have you in the chat. And I hope I didn't forget anybody. And thank you for the well wishes, Zach. I am on the mend, and I'm doing much better already. It definitely was a pleasure to get up and talk with each and every one of y'all today. Folks, as I always say, keep that mind free. Never give up. Until next time, I am JR Dukes.